shit. That's what I'm talking about.
Wait! Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
Welcome to Higher Ed Pulse, your Monday morning energizer covering insights and trends in higher ed marketing and enrollment. I'm Mallory Wilsey, bringing over 15 years of ed tech and marketing expertise to your earbuds.
And I'm Seth Odell, joining the Pulse with my own adventures from leading marketing at top universities to founding Kanahoma, one of the industry's fastest growing digital marketing agencies.
Each week, we bring you the kind of insider insights you typically only find over cocktails with your pals at a conference.
It's fast, it's fun, and it's designed for you, the busy higher ed professional.
You're not just listening to another podcast.
You're checking the pulse of higher education.
Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher ed professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com. We are back live at NAGAP, and I'm sitting across from Brett DiMarzo, who is the Director of Graduate Enrollment Digital Strategy at Boston College. Brett, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time out of your busy schedule here to chat with us. Tell our listeners a little bit more about you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Mallory. So, as you said, my name is Brett DiMarzo. I've been in graduate enrollment management for the last 20 years, believe it or not. I've worked at a multitude of schools in the Boston area, all at the graduate level, first working in financial aid and then moving over to the admission side of the house not that far after. And I've really enjoyed just being able to be in that space and work with graduate students in the recruitment, admissions, and marketing areas.
Tell me a little bit more about your unit within BC, because I'm familiar with many of the schools and colleges at BC, but my understanding is you're not embedded within one of them, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we're a really unique team. We're a graduate enrollment team that lives out of the provost's office. And part of our mission and goal is to work with the graduate and professional schools that we have at BC, work with their admission teams, work with their marketing teams, their deans, to help provide expertise and suggestions and recommendations on how they can do and recruit and enroll their students better and more efficiently. So it's a really unique role and a unique team that allows us to look across the silos, see what trends are happening in graduate enrollment management, and really bring that support and expertise to our teams.
What a dream, truly.
Absolutely.
So your title includes the words digital strategy. So what type of support are you providing to those 8 colleges and schools?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's basically everything digital. And I think obviously most people are thinking about the digital marketing piece, and that is a large part. So working with each of the teams to figure out what strategy works best for them, what channels to be on, facilitating the relationship with the vendors that they all work with in the marketing space. But also it goes beyond that, and we're really exploring how we can utilize all digital tools to be able to not only market, to recruit, but also to engage with students kind of across their whole journey as they're going from prospect to applicant to hopefully enrolled student at BC. And so it's a really creative role. It's a real opportunity to kind of look across a lot of different touch points within the student journey and really help provide that expertise and that insight to all the teams as they're kind of going through their day-to-day work.
What are some of the unique ways that you are helping guide the recruitment of graduate students and, in digital spaces? How are you reaching them?
Yeah, it's a whole variety of things. I mean, my major philosophy has always been, depending on which school I've been at and what kind of budget and resources that I have, to be in as many channels as possible. I think that's a really common theme that a lot of digital marketers and people who work in the digital space know, but it's really hard to pull off. So my role allows us to work with each of the teams to really figure out what that means for each of them, what channels are going to work best for them, and how much to use those different tools. But then it's also an opportunity to look at other ways to engage with students digitally. And I think that is a unique part of my job. It's a lot more of going beyond that traditional trying to recruit students, trying to engage with them on the phone or just via email. It's really kind of expanding that and trying to look across all the tools that are available. So we're looking at student engagement platforms. We're looking at not only digital or email communication plans, but incorporating the text messaging, incorporating cooperating or complementing with those engagement platforms, making sure that we're tying everything together so that that communication and that experience from the minute they see a digital ad to the email communication plan that they get put on, to the text message that they get, to the student ambassador platform that they're engaging with our current students in.
It is chaos if someone is not paying attention to that, because a message comes from over here, but it feels disconnected from the message that's on this other channel. And hey, I gave you my information here, but in this other space, you're acting like you don't even know me, right? Like, it can be really frustrating. It can be complicated. And I guess chaos is maybe the right word for it. So how, like, any tips? Because I'm sure many listeners feel that pain. Any tips for tying it all together?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is I'm a big mapping out person. So I think that's the biggest piece is there are so many tools and channels to be able to connect with students. But by mapping it out and really being intentional about how you want those touch points to happen, and how you want the students to engage with you, the better you're going to be. And it is chaos, but it's a controlled chaos is what I would call it, especially if you're being intentional and really thinking through what that experience is going to be like. It definitely helps to kind of make it more manageable. And that's what we're really kind of doing with each of the teams. And I've been here in my role now for 3 years. So I feel like a lot of what we were doing in the beginning was kind of educating everybody and just kind of saying, what are the ways that your students are interacting with you now? And what do you want that to be moving forward? And how can we incorporate new tools along the way to help increase those touch points and make it more interactive and engaging for the students as they're going through that experience?
Are there any channels that you're seeing like particular success in that are just outperforming other channels currently?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the teams have just incorporated text messaging into it. And I know that's not a new tool per se, but I think that addition has been really helpful, because I think that there's always an opportunity to feel like students are kind of falling through the cracks. And, it's that one or two extra touch points that could make the difference. And so text messaging has been really a really welcome new tool into the mix. A lot of our teams, we've spent a lot of time revamping a lot of their communication plans, their nurturing campaigns, and that's been really helpful. And then several of our teams are kind of exploring other new tools like student ambassador platforms and things like that. But I'm a big customer service guy. And so to me, the biggest impact really that all of our teams can have is that consistency. And so it's really kind of about using all of those. But I would say those are kind of the newest ones and the ones that we really have started to see that real big impact.
What about LinkedIn? And the reason I ask is because like a week doesn't go by where I'm not personally getting 3 to 5 messages from graduate recruiters saying, hey, do you know about this certificate program or this master's program? You seem like you fit our profile. So I've just noticed, especially I'd say in the last 6 months, is a significant uptick in my DMs with those types of messages. And certainly throughout my newsfeed, I'm seeing a lot of digital ads for these types of programs. So is LinkedIn part of your strategy?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a lot of our teams have really been utilizing, both social media platforms like LinkedIn, like Facebook and Meta and Instagram, and incorporating that into an overall holistic plan so that the students are really seeing us everywhere. But yeah, I think LinkedIn has been a really successful channel for a lot of our teams, and particularly in the kind of conversation ad, message ad space. It seems more personal. Yes, it is an ad, but it seems like it's coming from a more personal place. And I think the students have been really responsive to that in a lot of our disciplines.
Just occurred to me that the increase in those messages in my feed kind of parallel the decrease in general of people's usage of X or Twitter. Mm-hmm. So I bet there's some correlation there.
Right. Yep. Yeah. And a lot of the teams have not necessarily looked at those channels, only because I think they've found that a lot of their students are utilizing those for other things, and using it in other ways other than kind of trying to engage or get information about the different programs. But it's been really interesting. I think that's the really creative and interesting part of my job, is to be able to see how are all these things performing and what are those variations that we're seeing in the different schools and the different disciplines. What works for one isn't necessarily working as well for the other. And then what does that mean for the mix? Like, what does that mean for their overall strategy? And how do we incorporate that and adjust and pivot the way that we need to?
So what's your take on artificial intelligence? We live in a post-open AI world. Digital strategy is in your job title. So, are you using AI? Are you encouraging your colleagues to use it, or are you kind of keeping it at arm's reach?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I could say that we're innovative in that way. I wish we would use it more. I think there's still a lot of research and a lot of knowledge that we have to gain about it. But with somebody that has a 16-year-old son who, talks about AI all the time and probably uses it for some of his papers.
Oh, he does.
Yeah, right. It is important for us. And I think that's the neat piece that I think is part of what we do in graduate enrollment management is, while technology can be new and scary and, not everybody knows what's going on with it, we constantly have to look at these tools, and we have to look at how technology is going to help us connect with students. And so our students are using it, and they're using it in all sorts of ways in their own lives, for things that they're doing for work, for school, but also how they're engaging and interacting with people. So we need to embrace it. So that is the goal, is to get more knowledgeable about it and see how we can incorporate it. We're actually, as part of our strategy and initiatives and programs that we're doing for our graduate enrollment team, is we're actually going to have a GEM workshop in a month or so that's going to talk all about AI. And let's explore this and let's see what it's about and see how we can potentially use it down the road.
That's incredible. Wow. So as we kind of talk about, innovation and the future, and you mentioned a few minutes ago, you've got more than 2 decades in this industry. What are your predictions? What are you seeing as the things that are going to be successful when it comes to reaching and recruiting, and, as you mentioned before, hopefully enrolling graduate students as we look to, 2024 and beyond?
Yeah, I think the really interesting piece that I'm really looking forward to is how can we incorporate technology and the way that it's evolving into using it and having a customer service or student service focused. I know sometimes customer, that word is a hard word in higher education, but the experiences that students are having, particularly with technology in other areas of their life, are dictating how they interact and engage with organizations, companies, people. And so we need to be nimble. We need to figure out how can we use these to better serve them and give them a great customer service experience, because that is what they're going to expect. And so use technology, really embrace it, and use it to make sure that we're providing that service experience at a really, really high level, so that any student that we talk to, whether they enroll with us or not, has a great experience and talks about that experience with others.
Oh, I love that. I think one of the places where AI is going to have a really big impact on this student success and service space, that's a lot of S's in a row, is around like digital assistants and training AI to serve specific use cases to meet student needs when it is 2 a.m. or 2 p.m. on a Sunday, and that office just isn't open, but that's when they have their questions. That's when they're having their challenge and they need to connect with someone or something to get their answer. And Element 451 recently rolled out some AI assistants, and our customers are seeing success where like 8 out of 10 questions can be handled by these well-trained bots without ever having to escalate to a human. And I think that's going to have a really big impact in this space. You are so fortunate, but I know you've worked at institutions before where there's just fewer resources directed towards graduate enrollment management. And so I really believe that a huge productivity booster for small GEM teams is going to come from AI assistance.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it comes back to that service piece, because even though it's not a in-person or a face-to-face interaction, that student is going to have a satisfactory or positive experience because they got their question answered, whether it was from a person or whether it was from a bot. So it's really just about embracing that and having that be part of your holistic overall service plan. And I think that's where it's going to come in real key. And it's the expectation now. It's not a nice to have. It's not, oh, this would be a great thing, blue sky type of thing. It is what students are expecting, and they're okay with it. It's okay that they're getting their answer from a bot or from AI that is giving the information that they need. It's not interrupting their experience. It's actually helping it, even though it is using the technology to your advantage.
So, Brett, as we wrap up this awesome conversation, what words of advice would you leave our listeners?
Yeah, the best thing that I can tell you is to continue to research, to spend time and invest and looking at and researching all the opportunities that people have. That is going to help you decide what's going to work for you. And it's going to help you create that overall plan that's going to have all of these different components that are going to be all impactful when you're trying to work with that student and give them a really good experience. So invest in looking at and researching it as much as possible. Obviously, that's difficult to do when you're strapped with resources or staffing, but really partner with as many other campuses, other departments, other colleagues to learn and understand so that you can really have a solution for whatever challenge and issue that your teams are having.
Well, that's wonderful advice, and listeners, will leave it at that. Thank you. The Higher Ed Pulse is part of the Enrollify Podcast Network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too. Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional. Our show helps higher ed marketers and admission pros find their next big idea and features a selection of the industry's best as your hosts. Learn from Brian Gross, Eddie Francis, Jenny Lee Fowler, and so many of your favorite leaders in higher ed. Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the next generation AI student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful and personalized interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.